The 1970s were a time when British families gathered around the television, and the adverts were just as memorable as the programs themselves. With only three channels to choose from, everyone watched the same commercials, and the jingles became part of our daily lives. We sang them in the playground, hummed them while doing chores, and remembered them decades later. These weren't just adverts. They were shared experiences that connected an entire nation. Here are 20 British TV adverts from the 1970s that we all sang along to, and the memories they still bring back today. 1. R. White's Lemonade. I'm a secret lemonade drinker. The man in his pajamas, sneaking downstairs in the middle of the night, opening the fridge and pouring himself a glass of R. White's lemonade while singing at the top of his lungs. I'm a secret lemonade drinker, he'd croon, waking up the whole house with his enthusiasm. For British families in the 1970s, this advert was pure comedy. The idea of someone being so obsessed with lemonade that they'd sneak it like a guilty pleasure was hilarious. Kids loved the catchy tune and would sing it constantly, driving their parents mad. The jingle was so infectious that you couldn't get it out of your head for days. The advert aired repeatedly on ITV, especially during Saturday evening programs when families were most likely to be watching together. The man's exaggerated facial expressions and the over-the-top dramatic singing made it memorable. Even people who never drank R. White's knew every word of that song. What made it special was how relatable it was. Everyone had something they secretly enjoyed, whether it was sneaking biscuits before dinner or having an extra piece of cake when no one was looking. The advert captured that universal feeling with humor and warmth. For today's generation, the idea of an advert becoming that culturally significant might seem odd, but in the 1970s, when everyone watched the same three channels, these commercials became part of the national conversation. 2. Cadbury's Smash for Mash Get Smash. The Smash Martians, those tin robots with their jerky movements and mechanical laughter, mocking humans for the ridiculous way they made mashed potatoes. They peel them with their metal knives, boil them for 20 of their minutes, then they smash them all to bits. The robots would dissolve into hysterical laughter at the absurdity of it all. For British kids in the 1970s, the Smash Martians were comedy gold. The robotic voices, the exaggerated movements, and the idea that aliens found humans hilarious was captivating. Playgrounds across Britain were filled with kids imitating those laughing robots, repeating "For mash, get smash" in their best mechanical voices. The advert was clever because it made instant mashed potato seem not just convenient, but also futuristic and modern. In an era when space exploration was exciting and everyone was fascinated by technology, the Martians represented progress. Making traditional mashed potatoes suddenly seemed old-fashioned and inefficient. Families would laugh together watching the advert, and mothers appreciated the not-so-subtle suggestion that there was an easier way to make dinner. Smash became a pantry staple in many British homes, not because it tasted better than real potatoes, but because the advert made it seem like the smart, modern choice. The campaign ran for years, with the Martians becoming cultural icons. Even today, people who grew up in the 1970s can perfectly imitate that robotic laugh and remember the tagline, word for word. 3. Shake and vac. Do the shake and vac. The woman dancing around her living room with a canister of shake and vac, sprinkling it on her carpet while singing, "Do the shake and vac and put the freshness back." The jingle was impossibly catchy, with a tune that lodged itself in your brain and refused to leave. For British housewives in the 1970s, this advert was both entertaining and aspirational. The woman in the commercial seemed genuinely happy about cleaning her carpets, dancing and smiling as if vacuuming was the highlight of her day. The product promised to eliminate odors and leave carpets smelling fresh, which was appealing in an era when central heating and wall-to-wall carpeting were becoming common. Kids found the advert amusing and would mimic the dance moves, much to their mother's amusement. The jingle became a playground favorite, with children singing it while skipping rope or playing hopscotch. Even adults found themselves humming it while doing housework, whether they used shake and vac or not. The advert tapped into the 1970s obsession with making household chores easier and more pleasant. Companies were selling the idea that cleaning could be enjoyable if you had the right products, and shake and vac embodied that message perfectly. Decades later, that jingle remains one of the most memorable in British advertising history. People who haven't seen the advert in 40 years can still sing every word. 4. Bird's Eye Fish Fingers. Captain Birdseye. Captain Birdseye, the friendly sailor with his white beard and naval uniform, promising that Birdseye fish fingers were the best choice for children. He'd appear on his ship or at the seaside, reassuring mothers that their kids were getting quality food. No wonder they taste so good, the jingle went, and children believed him completely. For British families in the 1970s, Captain Birdseye was a trusted figure. He represented reliability and quality, and his presence on the box made parents feel confident they were feeding their children something wholesome. Fish fingers became a staple of childhood dinners, often paired with chips and peas for a classic British meal. Kids loved Captain Birdseye because he seemed kind and grandfatherly. The adverts showed him interacting with children, listening to them, and making them smile. In an era when television personalities felt like part of the family, Captain Birdseye was welcomed into homes across Britain. The fish fingers themselves became so ingrained in British culture that generations grew up eating them multiple times a week. School dinners served them, mothers prepared them for tea, and even teenagers made them for themselves when parents were out. The character remained in adverts for decades, evolving slightly but maintaining that same reassuring presence. For people who grew up in the 1970s, seeing Captain Birdseye still brings back memories of childhood dinners and simpler times. 5. Hamlet Cigars, box air on a G-string. The Hamlet cigar adverts were unlike anything else on British television in the 1970s. Each one showed a person in a frustrating or embarrassing situation, quietly lighting a Hamlet cigar while box air on a G-string played in the background. The tagline, "Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet," suggested that even in life's worst moments, a cigar could bring peace. The adverts were beautifully filmed and genuinely funny. One showed a man at a terrible amateur photo shoot, another featured someone stuck in a broken lift, and each ended with the character finding solace in their cigar. There were no words, just the classical music and the visual storytelling. For British adults in the 1970s, these adverts were sophisticated and clever. The use of box music elevated them beyond typical commercials, making them feel almost artistic. People would talk about the latest Hamlet advert at work or in the pub, discussing which scenario was the funniest. Children might not have understood the appeal of cigars, but they recognized the music instantly. Whenever box air on a G-string played anywhere, British kids would say, "That's the Hamlet music." The piece became forever associated with the brand. The campaign ran for decades and became one of the most awarded in British advertising history. Even today, people remember those quiet, contemplative moments and the sense of calm they conveyed. 6. Hovis. As good today as it's always been. The Hovis advert with the young boy pushing his bicycle up a steep cobbled hill in a northern English town, delivering bread while brass band music played. The advert was filmed in Dorset but captured the essence of working-class British life. The tagline, "As good today as it's always been," emphasized tradition and quality. For British families in the 1970s, this advert represented nostalgia even then. It looked back to a simpler time, when bread was delivered by hand and communities were close-knit. The cobbled streets, the stone buildings, and the brass band music all evoked a sense of heritage and pride. The advert became iconic, with the image of the boy and his bike appearing in British culture for years. Hovis became synonymous with traditional British bread, the kind that grandparents had eaten and that families could trust. Parents appreciated the message that some things didn't need to change. In a decade of rapid modernization, where instant foods and new technologies were everywhere, Hovis reminded people that traditional methods still had value. The music, Largo from Dvořák's New World Symphony, became as recognizable as the visual. Hearing those opening notes would immediately bring to mind cobbled streets and fresh bread. 7. Milky Bar Kid. The Milky Bar Kid is strong and tough. The Milky Bar Kid, the blonde boy in glasses and a cowboy outfit, riding into town on his horse to deliver Milky Bars to children. The Milky Bar Kid is strong and tough, and only the best is good enough, the jingle proclaimed as kids cheered his arrival. For British children in the 1970s, the Milky Bar Kid was a hero. He represented everything fun about childhood: adventure, cowboys, and of course, chocolate. Milky Bars, with their creamy white chocolate, were a special treat that kids saved their pocket money for. The adverts always followed the same formula. The kid would arrive, hand out Milky Bars, and everyone would celebrate. The jingle was simple and repetitive, making it easy for children to memorize and sing endlessly. Playgrounds became battlegrounds of kids pretending to be the Milky Bar Kid, riding imaginary horses and delivering imaginary chocolate. The character became so popular that Nestlé held competitions to find real children to play the role in adverts. Parents tolerated the constant singing of the jingle because it was harmless and wholesome. In an era when children's entertainment was carefully monitored, the Milky Bar Kid represented clean, innocent fun. 8. PG Tips, the chimpanzees. The PG Tips chimpanzees, dressed in human clothes and performing everyday British activities while drinking tea. The chimps would sit at tables, wear suits and dresses, and speak in dubbed human voices with northern accents. The adverts were comedy gold, with the chimps discussing mortgages, decorating, and other mundane adult topics. For British families in the 1970s, these adverts were appointment viewing. Everyone would stop talking when the PG Tips chimps appeared, eager to see what scenario they'd be in this time. The combination of seeing animals in human situations and hearing them discuss British working-class concerns was endlessly entertaining. Children found the chimps hilarious, especially their exaggerated facial expressions and clumsy movements. Adults appreciated the clever writing and the gentle satire of everyday British life. The adverts made PG Tips seem like the tea for ordinary people. Not pretentious or fancy, just good honest tea. The campaigns ran for decades, with the chimps becoming British cultural icons. They appeared in different scenarios over the years, always maintaining that perfect balance between absurdity and relatability. People would quote lines from the adverts at work and in the pub, and PG Tips became Britain's best-selling tea. The adverts proved that humor, when done right, could sell a product far better than any straightforward pitch. 9. Fry's Turkish Delight, full of Eastern promise. The exotic, mysterious Fry's Turkish Delight adverts, with their Middle Eastern-inspired visuals and the sultry tagline, full of Eastern promise. The adverts showed beautiful people in flowing robes, lush settings, and always ended with someone biting into the rose-flavored chocolate bar. For British adults in the 1970s, these adverts represented escapism. The 1970s were economically difficult years in Britain, with strikes, power cuts, and inflation. The idea of somewhere exotic and luxurious, even if it was just in a chocolate advert, was appealing. The Turkish Delight bar itself was unusual, with its rose-flavored jelly center covered in chocolate. It wasn't for everyone, but those who loved it were devoted fans. The adverts made it seem sophisticated and special, not just another sweet. The phrase, full of Eastern promise, entered British vocabulary, used jokingly to describe anything vaguely exotic or mysterious. People would say it with a knowing smile, referencing the adverts everyone had seen. Children found the taste of rose-flavored chocolate strange, but the mysterious adverts fascinated them. The Middle Eastern settings, the dramatic music, and the sense of luxury made Turkish Delight seem like something from another world. 10. Milk Tray Man, all because the lady loves milk tray. The milk tray man, dressed in black like a spy, performing death-defying stunts to deliver a box of milk tray chocolates to a woman. He'd ski down mountains, dive off cliffs, parachute from planes, all accompanied by dramatic music. The tagline, "And all because the lady loves milk tray," suggested that these extreme efforts were worthwhile for the right woman. For British viewers in the 1970s, the milk tray man represented romance and adventure. The adverts were like miniature James Bond films, exciting and glamorous. Women found them romantic, and men appreciated the action sequences. The character became a British cultural icon, representing the ultimate romantic gesture. The idea that someone would risk their life to deliver chocolates was absurd but endearing. It made milk tray seem like the perfect gift for someone special. Children found the stunts exciting and would pretend to be the milk tray man, sneaking around the house and leaving imaginary chocolates for their mothers. The dramatic music became instantly recognizable. The campaign ran for decades with different actors playing the milk tray man over the years. But the core concept remained the same: extraordinary effort for love. 11. Fairy Liquid, hands that do dishes. The Fairy Liquid adverts featuring mothers and daughters in kitchens, with the tagline, "Hands that do dishes can feel soft as your face with mild green fairy liquid." The adverts emphasized that washing dishes didn't have to damage your hands if you use the right washing up liquid. For British housewives in the 1970s, this was a practical concern. Before dishwashers were common, every meal required washing up by hand, often multiple times a day. Harsh detergents could leave hands dry and rough, so a product that promised to be gentle was appealing. The adverts always showed mothers teaching daughters how to wash dishes, passing down household knowledge from one generation to the next. This reinforced traditional gender roles but also captured a real aspect of family life in that era. Children might help with the washing up after tea, standing on stools to reach the sink, and they'd remember their mothers insisting on using fairy liquid because it was kind to hands. The green color of the liquid was distinctive and recognizable. The slogan was so ingrained in British culture that people still quote it today. Fairy Liquid became the dominant brand, trusted by generations of British families. 12. Campari. Were you truly wafted here from paradise? The Campari adverts featuring Lorraine Chase, where a sophisticated man asks her in a posh accent, "Were you truly wafted here from paradise?" And she replies in her thick Cockney accent, "Nah, Luton Airport." The contrast between his pretension and her down-to-earth honesty was comedy perfection. For British viewers in the 1970s, these adverts were hilarious because they punctured upper-class pretension. Lorraine Chase's working-class accent and straightforward manner made her relatable and likable. The adverts suggested that Campari wasn't just for snobs. Ordinary people could enjoy it too. The catchphrase, "Nah, Luton Airport," became part of British popular culture, repeated in pubs and workplaces across the country. It represented British humor at its best: self-deprecating, class-conscious, and genuinely funny. The adverts helped make Campari fashionable in Britain, bringing Italian aperitif culture to British homes. The bright red drink became associated with sophistication, but the adverts ensured it never felt too pretentious. Lorraine Chase became a household name, and the Campari adverts launched her acting career. For people who remember them, those adverts perfectly captured the 1970s British sense of humor. 13. Nimble Bread, the Balloon Girl. The Nimble Bread adverts featuring a young woman floating through the air in a hot air balloon, emphasizing how light and airy the bread was. She'd drift over countryside, smiling and carefree, while a jingle played, "She flies like a bird in the sky. She flies." For British women in the 1970s, these adverts represented the growing focus on dieting and weight consciousness. Nimble marketed itself as the low-calorie bread choice, perfect for women watching their figures. The balloon metaphor suggested lightness and freedom. The adverts were visually beautiful, with soft lighting and dreamy music. They felt aspirational, suggesting that eating Nimble would make you feel as light and free as the floating woman. This was powerful marketing in an era when women's magazines were full of diet advice. Children found the balloon imagery fascinating, and many remember asking their mothers why the woman was flying. The adverts stuck in memories because they were so different from the typical food commercials. The jingle became instantly recognizable, and Nimble carved out a specific market position as the diet bread. Decades later, people still remember that floating woman and the promise of lightness. 14. Terry's Chocolate Orange. Tap it and unwrap it. The Terry's Chocolate Orange adverts showing the distinctive orange-shaped chocolate ball being tapped to break it into segments. "Tap it and unwrap it," the voiceover instructed, demonstrating the satisfying ritual of breaking the chocolate apart before eating it. For British families in the 1970s, Terry's Chocolate Orange was a special treat, often given as a gift at Christmas or birthdays. The unique shape and the act of tapping it to separate the segments made eating it an experience, not just a snack. Children loved the theatricality of tapping the chocolate orange on a hard surface, watching it split into perfect wedges. The orange flavor was distinctive, and the combination of chocolate and citrus felt sophisticated. The adverts emphasized the quality and craftsmanship of the product, showing close-ups of the chocolate segments and highlighting the real orange oil used in the flavoring. This made it seem premium and worth saving for special occasions. The tagline, "Tap it and unwrap it," entered British vocabulary, and the gesture of tapping became synonymous with the product. Even people who hadn't eaten one in years would remember exactly how it felt to break open that chocolate orange. 15. Martini. Anytime, any place, anywhere. The Martini adverts featuring glamorous people in exotic locations, with the tagline, "Anytime, anyplace, anywhere." The adverts suggested that Martini was the drink of sophistication and adventure, suitable for any occasion from a beach party to a formal dinner. For British adults in the 1970s, Martini represented continental sophistication. The brand was associated with European glamour, and drinking it made people feel worldly and cosmopolitan. The adverts showed beautiful people enjoying life, which was aspirational for working-class British viewers. The jingle was incredibly catchy, and the phrase, "anytime, anyplace, anywhere," became part of everyday language. People would use it jokingly to suggest flexibility or spontaneity. Martini became fashionable at dinner parties and social gatherings, served in special glasses with ice and lemon. The adverts successfully positioned it as a lifestyle choice rather than just a drink. The campaign ran for years with different variations, always maintaining that sense of glamour and possibility. For people who grew up in the 1970s, Martini still carries those associations of sophistication and European style. These 15 adverts were more than just commercial breaks. They were shared cultural experiences that connected British families across the nation. In the 1970s, when there were only 3 television channels and everyone watched the same programs, these adverts became part of daily conversation. People quoted them at work, children sang them in playgrounds, and families discussed them over dinner. The jingles lodged themselves in our memories. The taglines became part of our vocabulary, and the characters felt like familiar faces. Decades later, people who haven't seen these adverts in 40 years can still sing every word, remember every image, and feel the nostalgia they bring. For today's generation, who can skip adverts with a button press and have unlimited streaming options, the idea of adverts being that culturally significant might seem strange. But in the 1970s, these commercials were as much a part of British life as the programs they interrupted. Which of these adverts do you remember most clearly? Can you still sing the jingles? Share your memories in the comments below and let us know which advert brings back the strongest feelings of that time when Britain gathered together around the television. And even the commercials made us smile. Hit the like button if these memories brought you back to those days, and subscribe to British Yesterdays for more journeys into the Britain we remember with such fondness.